This is a nice project from the last module that we completed. The student took the time to add some doors and windows and change the tile color. I don't think that is really, actually they even shrunk the area with where they had the window glazing up there. I think that this kind of experimentation is really valuable. It helps to help you gain a kind of ownership from your architectural project. And I don't think it takes all that much extra time. But I show this example just for your own takeaways to it and to, I guess, get what you want out of it. Here's another student who added some exterior entourage and exterior garden activation features, things like seating and planters and that, to help to communicate the idea that that was an outdoor deck area. I think it was a really nice piece of extra effort. So I just wanted to point these two projects out. And there were a couple of other that I didn't include in there. But my hat's off to you for any of you who took the time to just go a little bit extra. I think you'll find that in the working world that will go a long way for your career benefits. So this is one last kind of comment about our architectural representations. I saw this in Buffalo Rising this week. This is a school building proposed. The architect delivered these drawings. I think it's to the planning board. The media comes to the planning board and then takes those images and then sends them out to the general public to look at. And I want you to think of where you sit in that process. So the criticism here is, and my concern, because of the way I teach the course, I'm asking you to make levels and section lines and dividing things off like this, is that, or grid lines, should I say, is that they really become very busy and quite useless on a lot of these drawings. So this was presented to people who the vertical grid lines were really quite unimportant to. They were showing areas of structural, and this was probably going to the planning board. And there was just no need for this kind of level of grid line detail showing. I think this should have been hidden in view. The tags on the windows, I don't think would be important at all in any kind of discussion like that. And that would have really cleaned up these elevations a great deal, brought a lot more clarity to the images that they were showing. And they also avoided any kind of context or 3D imagery included in their planning board package. And now that may have been there at the meeting, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but my gut feeling is they didn't do that because they maybe didn't think they wanted to show that much. But I think it's really critical. I think it shows, if I was to go to a planning board meeting as an architect, I would want to contextualize the architecture. I would want to show the sidewalks, the entry, the kind of surrounding areas to make sure that everyone had a good understanding about its relationship on the site. I think that'd go a long way into convincing the planning board that it was a thoughtful project. So, but anyway, the takeaway here is think about who's going to be seeing your drawings. When you go to the planning board, think about what's necessary for them to understand about the drawings, and then what its possible life after that planning board meeting is, because it's a public meeting. Those drawings go out to other people and to the media, and then they become part of common knowledge. So think about what's absolutely needed for the planning board and what you want to have shown if it ends up on the evening news or on a blog site. So one of the comments about this project that I thought was really meaningful, kind of simple, I decided to change the colors, so they wanted to do things, but I don't really feel that I learned too much. And, that always strikes me. I really want the lessons to be as productive as possible. You learn a lot. But I can say that from looking at it originally, they say, I thought it would have been much more difficult to construct and taken longer than it actually did. And I think that is actually the answer about that not feeling like you've learned too much, going through the experience, finding out that something is much easier to do than you thought it would be, that you understand how you can add complexity with a couple of simple tools is, I think, a very valuable learning lesson. So I'll finish up by talking about a recent article that I saw. I'll finish up this part of the clip before we go into some specifics on topography, should I say. Many firms are starting to adopt BIM. This is just a reinforcement of that. From 2019 to 2021, which is still almost becoming old news now, 52% of small firms are using BIM modeling systems like Revit. And that seems like, well, maybe that's only half, but that's only the small firms are a sub-portion of all architectural firms, including mid-size and larger firms, and those basically always universally use BIM. So we're well in the probably 80% range of BIM utilization. I say that only to give perspective on the importance of it in practice. I don't want to overplay the importance in education about using BIM modeling. There's so many things you need to learn that have nothing to do with computers and software and modeling to understand architectural concepts. But this is the technology course, and so this is the time to kind of be aware and discuss it. So we'll take a look at our project and specifically the idea of topographical representation in our modeling environment next. And actually, before we finish this off, to make sure that you completed this, the keyword is 52% for your sign-in.